Up until about a couple weeks ago, the most runs Paul Skenes ever allowed in a four-start stretch was 10. Over his last four starts, he has allowed 15 runs, 13 earned. And that includes Wednesday night, where he threw a career-high 109 pitches, didn't get out of the fifth inning, and while he didn't take a loss for the fourth consecutive game, he did not get a win again. It feels weird to say it, but I think this safely constitutes the first time we have seen the Pirates a slump in the major leagues. Good morning and welcome to OffBeat here on North Shore 9 presented by FanDuel. My name is Alex Stumpf and this is a daily look at your Pittsburgh Pirates. I want to rewind just a few games back to whenever Paul Skenes bullied the Colorado Rockies for 8 innings. It really looked like he was facing a AAA team, like it was a rehab start or something. It just wasn't a contest. He was ruthless in the zone. The Rockies couldn't square him up. They struck out. It was just a devastating performance, and it lowered his season ERA to 198, which is basically what we saw as a rookie and as his Cy Young year last year. His ERA literally went from 196 to 197 to 9 starts into 2026, 198. After Wednesday's performance, that ERA is now 309. 15 runs, 13 earned over 4 starts. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty here, I'm going to start off by saying I'm not overly concerned. I'm not sounding alarms. I'm not screaming that the world is ending and the sky is falling. It's Paul Skenes. If there's one thing I have learned about Paul Skenes over the 3 years that I've covered him, it is he is relentless in how he is going to attack this. He's going to look at the mechanics. He's going to look at his own pitch mix. He's going to assess what he has to do, what he has to adjust, if anything needs adjusted, if this is just bad ball luck. And yeah, I'm sure he's going to do that all. And yeah, the defense behind him has not been great as of late. Nick Gonzalez in particular had a pretty rough game on Wednesday. He did homer, he did contribute to the overall performance, but rough night in the field for him. And I'm also going to say that coming into tonight, Paul Skenes still led baseball in whip. So while the ERA was inflated, he's not allowing a ton of base runners. So it's like, okay, so you have a guy who's not really allowing a ton of base runners, who's having a poor defensive performance behind him for a team that hasn't graded particularly great defensively. There's just like a lot of like, okay, this is out of his control, but I can't help shaking the feeling. This is a slump. The eye test just can't lie here. And I need to stress, it is mostly eye test. Because if you look at a lot of the peripherals, they're pretty similar. They've been holding pretty steady this year. He is still getting the velocity in the spin. He is still getting consistent arm angles. He is still getting consistent release points. Like, it's the type of stuff that's usually a red flag. Like, the Bubba Chandler example that I used here a couple weeks ago, and looking at that arm angle, be like, okay, that's probably contributing to his control problems. There is no smoking gun from what I can find. But then I look at a moment like the at-bat against Yordan Alvarez in the 5th inning, where it's a 1-1 count and Skenes obviously sped up. He was not in sync the way that he wanted to be, and he seemed to go through his motion quicker than he anticipated, and the ball was spiked into the dirt for a clear ball. Now he comes back the next pitch, clean mechanics, gets a swinging strike, or it might have been a called strike, definitely a strike to even the count at 2. He bounced back nicely, but it's weird to see him have moments mechanically where it's like, yeah, I see him not, he's not where he should be. And it's odd to see Paul Skenes in positions where he doesn't put himself in. For 2 years, he was as reliable as anyone because he was as consistent as anyone. It was a robot-like performance. Corey Kluber like the Klubot, where he's just going to stay in his mechanics. He's going to stay in his rhythm. He's going to stay in himself. And we haven't really seen that as much of late. And yeah, there's a lot of bad defense behind him. And yeah, there's a couple games here where he's still struck out a lot of batters, but 20 innings pitched over his last 4 starts, 15 runs. That's a 2-part story. Part 1 is that's a lot of runs. Part 2 is he's not going deep into games, even though he's throwing 109 pitches. Not enough to sound an alarm about anything long-term, but enough to be like, okay, what's up with Paul? And just looking at him on Wednesday, it felt like he was kind of pitching naked a little bit. His 2 go-to off-speed offerings, off-speed breaking ball, have been the changeup and the sweeper. And the changeup, barely any of them landed in the zone on Wednesday. That was a pitch that was pretty far down the entire time. Just low, low, low. A couple times it caught a corner, but it was a pitch that the Astros could pretty much spit on if they so chose. And the sweeper, that was a pitch that, looking at it, there were a lot that just hung a little over catching too much plate, or it fell way too far off. He wasn't catching that sweet spot of, the outside part of the plate, he hit it to his glove side, where the pitch is its most effective. And while he only walked 1 on Wednesday, there were a lot of deeper counts. There were a lot of longer at bats. It's why he threw 109 pitches, which I think would have been a much bigger deal a year or 2 ago. If in the middle of June, whenever they were starting to be more conscious of his innings to make sure he pitched the whole year and didn't, overly pass any innings goals they had for him, and they were doing those 5 and dives. Imagine telling them, 109 pitches in June. He's not in that spot right now. They still have to be mindful of workload, but he can handle 109, especially since it was a really long at bat with 2 outs in the 5th, and Don Kelly justifiably wanted to try to get his ace the win after losing 3 in a row. So no fault on the manager there. But out of those 109, how many of them really felt like, yeah, that's Paul Skenes? A lot of them. I don't want to make it sound like he had nothing out there, but there were enough pitches where it's like, you can spit on that. You can drive that. It wasn't the type of dominance that we have been accustomed to. Go look into a couple other things I saw on Wednesday here in a bit.
This episode is brought to you by IQ Bar, our exclusive snack hydration sponsor. IQ Bar protein bars, IQ Mix hydration mixes, and IQ Joe mushroom coffees are the delicious, low-sugar, brain and body fuel you need to win your day. The Ultimate Sampler Pack is a great way for you to try all IQ Bar products and flavors. You get 9 IQ bars, 8 IQ Mix sticks, and 4 IQ Joe sticks. All IQ Bar products are clean label certified and entirely free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMOs, and artificial ingredients. With over 20,000 5-star reviews and counting, more people than ever are fueling their lifestyles with IQ Bar's brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. The Ultimate Sampler Pack includes all 3. My personal favorites so far have been the almond butter chip and the iced tea lemonade hydration mix. It's just really full of flavor, I love starting my day with it, and I couldn't imagine starting my day with anything else other than IQ Bar products. Right now, IQ Bar is offering our podcast listeners 20% off all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text MLB to 64,000. That's MLB 64000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details.
I'm not sounding the alarm on a lot of stuff. There is one pitch that I am pretty concerned about at this moment. And it's the pitch that we all raved about in 2024. The splinker, the splitter, whatever you want to call it, it has been a non-factor lately. To the point that out of those 109 pitches that he threw on Wednesday, one splinker. And it's a pitch that on the year, batters are hitting 367 against. That is not the same pitch that we saw in 2024. I think the fact that he has a dedicated sinker now is a big part of it. Like a splitter sinker hybrid is not nearly as effective whenever you could see just a regular sinker, especially since he threw that splinker like a sinker as a rookie. If he has the same intent of how he throws it and the pitch is half of another type of pitch, it just could be argued that's a lot more like a slow sinker than it is a splinker at that point. But that pitch has been a non-factor. And that was such an important pitch as a rookie because it paired so well with his fastballs. It spun the same way. He killed spin on it, but like it moved the same way. It would just drop. It created this illusion. And the changeup just doesn't do the same, in my opinion. I don't know what plays off of the changeup as well as anything played off of the splinker. The sweeper can at least tunnels with the fastballs. It could create a tunnel thing. I don't see a clean tunnel with the changeup. The changeup has got some outstanding results. I get that. I'm not knocking on the pitch in general, but whenever you see a pitcher that's struggling, slumping, I guess I should say, slumping right now, and they don't have one of their signature pitches, you raise an eyebrow. Because whenever he's not landing that changeup in the zone and the sweeper is falling off the plate, the third time through the order on Wednesday, he's just pumping fastballs. And the Astros are on it. And Skenes, whenever he's tired and he's had a long day and the pitch counts in triple digits, he couldn't retire batters. This was one of the rare times on Wednesday where he did not feel in control. And this is the longest stretch where it just doesn't feel like he has been in control. It hasn't been since the Rockies game. And that was weeks ago at this point. I don't see anything mechanically or outside of what we talked about, just not being in the same rhythm, speeding up on himself at some points in his delivery. I don't see anything metrically with the pitches that's like, okay, this is just not working right now, or there's a giant red flag here. I think this is like 98% of Paul Skenes. He's like 2% off right now. But that's a big 2%. And it's kind of made him human. I'm eager to see how he looks at this, how he wants to adjust, because as it looks right now, he's probably going to start against the Dodgers, and that is a hell of a lineup. If he's not landing changeups in the zone and the sweeper's falling off the plate and he doesn't have his splinker and he's got to just try to muscle through with the fastball against that team, then the slump could become something more. Thank you so much for listening to OffBeat here on North Shore 9 presented by FanDuel. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe wherever you find a fine podcast or check us out on YouTube if you want to see my smiling face. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk again tomorrow.
All right, that wraps up this episode of North Shore 9. Thanks so much for tuning in, whether you're listening on the podcast or catching us on YouTube. If you enjoyed the show, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps us grow. And if you're listening on the podcast, a quick review goes a long way in helping others find the show. Plus, be sure to tell a friend about us. There's always room for more here in the NS9 community. And for those looking to support us a little more, consider joining our Patreon, become an MVP member, and get exclusive perks while helping us continue to bring you more of the Pirates content you love. Thanks again for all your support, and let's go Bucks.